Fiancée took a break to tour Europe with her college friends, so I canceled the wedding. All right, here goes nothing. So me and Sarah had been together for about 5 years, engaged for almost 3. Things were going all right, or at least I thought they were. We had a wedding date set, everything was booked, and I was under the impression we were on the same page. Guess I was wrong about that. See, about 6 weeks ago she tells me she's going on this trip to Europe with her old college friends. It was like a trip of a lifetime kind of deal or whatever she called it, and I was fine with it. I mean, I wasn't going to stop her from going on a trip with her friends. In fact, I even drove her to the airport, helped her with her bags, gave her a kiss goodbye, and wished her a fun time. That's when she hit me with the whole "we need to take a break" thing. She didn't say, "Let's sit down and talk about things." No, she just dropped it on me as we were walking to the security line, like it was no big deal. I remember thinking, what the hell do you mean a break? But before I could even ask questions, I didn't even think about it at first. I just got back in the car and drove home. I thought it was a strange thing she said because she was nervous about the trip. But then I started calling her to check in, and guess what? She blocked me on everything. I couldn't call her, text her, or anything. I checked social media to see if she had posted something or given an update on her trip, and she was blocked there too. That's when it started to sink in that this whole break thing wasn't just a passing comment. She really meant it. She really left for Europe and decided to cut me off without even talking about it. I tried to give it a few days, hoping she'd calm down or realize she was being ridiculous, but after 5 days of complete silence, I was done. I made up my mind right then and there that the wedding was off. And you know what? I felt good about that decision. Why should I be with someone who thinks they can just walk away whenever they feel like it? I wasn't going to sit around and wait for her to come back. Decide when she was ready to be in a relationship again. Hell no, she made her choice, so I made mine. I canceled everything, the venue, the catering, the flowers, whatever we had planned for the wedding. I pulled the plug, and then I took it one step further and decided she wasn't moving in with me either, which was supposed to happen in March. Nope, she could figure out her living situation when she got back from her little vacation because it wasn't going to be with me. Weeks went by and I didn't hear a word from her, not a single message, not she didn't call me for a while, and then one day out of the blue she did. I didn't even know it was her at first because she must have used a different number or something. She says she's coming back on Thursday morning and gives me her flight information like I'm supposed to care. She acts like everything is fine, even though she ghosted me for 6 weeks. I paused for a second and then said, "What does that have to do with me?" The silence on the other end of the phone was golden. She didn't know how to respond. I didn't give her a chance to explain either. I blocked. I thought that was the end of it. But later that day, I decided it was time to tell people what was going on, especially since the wedding was off. We had a group chat with some friends and family, so I just posted a quick message saying, "Hey, just letting everyone know the wedding is canceled, and so is our relationship." I didn't think it would blow up like it did, but man, people had questions. Everyone started asking what happened, so I laid it out for them. I told them how Sarah went off to Europe and decided we needed a break without even asking me. Then they blocked me for 6 weeks. Everyone was pretty shocked, and some people were even mad on my behalf, which honestly felt kind of nice. You never really know how people will react when you drop news like that, but it was good to have some support around 2 p.m. Sarah finally spoke up. At first, she didn't say much. She just asked me to call her, so we could talk about everything. I didn't want to do that, so I told her we could talk right there in the group chat if she wanted to explain herself. She didn't like that, though, and said something like, "This is between us, not for everyone else." Yeah, no, she made this public the second she walked out of my life without a word. She tried to message me a few more times, but I just kept it short. I wasn't in the mood to listen to her excuses by 6 p.m. She was begging me to pick her up from the airport so we could talk this out, like nothing had happened. I told her straight up that was your plan, not mine. None of this was my plan, and I meant it. I wasn't going to run to the airport like some fool after everything she did. To be honest, part of me was still waiting for her to give me some kind of explanation that would make sense of it all. I guess I wanted to believe there was a reason for why she treated me like this, but as the hours went by, I knew she wasn't going to come back with a big apology or say there was a misunderstanding. She made her choice, and I had to live with it. So for the next few days, I focused on getting my life back on track. I wasn't going to let this ruin me. I started going through our shared accounts to make sure everything was split up, and I changed the locks on my apartment. The last thing I needed was for her to show up unannounced and think she could just walk back into my life. I was done with that, and I even started planning some trips of my own. I thought that since she could go to Europe for 6 weeks, I should take some time for myself too. I deserved it after all the crap she put me through. Anyway, that's where things stand right now. She'll be back in a couple of days, but I'm not going to be there waiting. She can figure out how to get home on her own. As far as I'm concerned, this chapter of my life is over and I'm moving on to better things. I was ready for Sarah to try to get in touch again after I came to terms with the fact that the wedding was off. What I didn't expect was how quickly she would try to play the victim card. It all started when I got this message from one of our mutual friends, Emily. Emily is cool. She's always been honest with me, but this time she seemed hesitant, like she didn't want to get involved. She sent me a screenshot from another group chat that I wasn't in. It was obviously Sarah talking to some of her friends, trying to make it look like I was the one who overreacted. Can you believe that? In the chat, she told them how stressed she was about the wedding and how she needed space to clear her head. She even said something like, "I didn't mean for the break to last that long, but I thought he would understand." And then there was this gem. "I just needed to figure out if I was ready for marriage, but he canceled everything before I could talk to him." I almost laughed when I read that. She blocked me on everything for 6 weeks. Then she pretended that I didn't give her a chance to talk. No, that's not how this works. Just reading the messages made my blood boil. She was playing the whole poor me card and telling everyone that I was being irrational and rushed into canceling the wedding. At this point, I knew I couldn't just let her keep running her mouth and making me look like the bad guy, so I decided to address it head on. I wasn't going to let her rewrite history. I jumped into the main group chat, where all our close friends and family were still buzzing. Everyone was trying to figure out what was going on after the wedding was called off. I thought it was time to clear the air, so I posted a message that said, "Look, I just want everyone to know the truth here. Sarah decided we were taking a break without talking to me and blocked me for 6 weeks. Now she's acting like this is some kind of miscommunication. I canceled the wedding because I wasn't going to sit around waiting for someone who didn't respect me enough to have a conversation." People were writing back to offer their support and talk about how messed up the whole thing was. Sarah didn't say anything in the chat for about an hour, but then she finally came in with a weak excuse about how she didn't think it would go this far and how she never meant to hurt anyone again. There was no accountability or real apology, just an attempt to save face. One of my friends, Jake, jumped in and called her out right there in front of everyone. He said, "Sarah, you can't just drop a break on someone and disappear for weeks and expect everything to be fine. That's not how relationships work when you come back." Honestly, I was relieved that someone else said it because I was getting tired of defending myself at this point. Now here's where things got interesting. Sarah's friend Megan, who I always thought was a little shady, decided to back Sarah up. Megan starts saying how Sarah's been through a lot and how wedding pressure can really mess with your head. She was trying to make it sound like Sarah was the victim of stress and anxiety, which is true, but come on. That's not a reason to block your fiancé and go radio silent for 6 weeks while you party in Europe. Megan goes on to say things like, "You should have given Sarah more time to think about everything. And maybe you acted too quickly by canceling the wedding." That's when I lost it. I wasn't going to sit there and listen to someone who wasn't even in the relationship try to tell me what to do. So I replied, "Megan, with all due respect, you don't know the half of it. This isn't about wedding stress." Sarah blocked me and cut me off completely. She didn't talk to me once during the whole trip, even though I tried to call and text her. How much more time was I supposed to give her? Another 6 weeks? A year? If Sarah didn't want to be with me, she could have said so, but instead she disappeared and expected me to wait. That's not how it works. The chat went quiet after that. I think everyone was starting to realize how messed up the whole situation was. Even Megan didn't have much to say after that. I thought things would calm down after a few days, but then I got another call from Sarah's sister Rachel. Rachel and I had always gotten along well, so I thought she was just checking in or something. But as soon as I answered, she started asking why I canceled the wedding without talking to Sarah first. I was shocked. I didn't think Rachel would take Sarah's side, especially after everything I told her. "Rachel, your sister blocked me. How was I supposed to talk to her when she literally cut me off?" Rachel didn't really have an answer to that, but she kept saying that Sarah was heartbroken and that I should have waited for her to come back and talk things over. At that point, I had had enough. I told Rachel straight up, "Look, I get that you want to defend your sister, but what she did was wrong. She didn't give me any say in the whole break thing, and I'm not going to wait around for someone who doesn't respect me. If Sarah wants to explain herself, she knows how to reach me, but I'm not going to be the one to fix this." Rachel tried to say more. I told her I had to go and hung up. I wasn't going to keep having the same conversation with every person Sarah sent my way that night. I got another message from Sarah. This time she was sorry, sort of. She said she was sorry for how things went down, but she didn't take any responsibility for the choices she made. It was one of those half apologies where she tried to make it sound like we were both at fault. I didn't reply because there was no point. She'd made her bed and now she had to lie in it. With her anymore after that, I made sure to block her everywhere again just to make sure there wouldn't be any more drama. I wasn't interested in hearing her excuses or letting her drag this out any longer. At the end of the day, I realized something. I dodged a bullet. If this is how Sarah acted when things got tough, I can't even imagine what it would have been like to be married to her. I felt bad for the time we wasted, but I was glad it ended before it got any worse. Now I could move on, and that's exactly what I planned to do. Update 1 also. After all the drama with Sarah and her trying to guilt me into changing my mind about the wedding, which, by the way, didn't work, I thought things would calm down for a while. But no, not in my life. About a week after I blocked Sarah for the last time, I got a call from a number I didn't know. I almost didn't answer it because I wasn't in the mood for more drama, but for some reason I did, and guess who it was? Sarah's mom. What the hell? Sarah's mom, Lou, had always been one of those people who was nice to your face but had a passive-aggressive vibe. She was the kind of person who would compliment you but somehow make you feel like it was an insult. You know what I mean? Anyway, Lisa started the conversation like nothing had happened, saying, "Hi, sweetheart. How are you?" Like we hadn't just canceled a wedding and blocked her daughter from my life. I wasn't gonna play games, so I kept it. "I'm fine, Lisa. What's going on?" That's when she starts with the whole guilt trip. She says, "Oh, we were so looking forward to the wedding. And this whole thing has really devastated Sarah. You know, she's been crying every day since she got back, right? She's just been a mess." I wasn't going to let her make me feel bad for Sarah after everything she did. So I told her straight up, "Lisa, I'm sorry Sarah's upset, but she made her choices. I didn't call off the wedding for no reason." Then Lisa hits me with this, "Well, maybe you overreacted a little. Sarah was just nervous about the whole thing, and people make mistakes when they're stressed. Don't you think you should give her another chance?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She was acting like Sarah blocking me for 6 weeks and then disappearing was just a small mistake. I wasn't having it, Lisa. I said this wasn't just nerves. She literally blocked me on everything and went to Europe without saying a word. That's not something you just brush off. If Sarah was having doubts, she should have talked to me instead of shutting me out. But Lisa wasn't done yet. She kept pushing. "I know it seems bad, but think about all the years you've been together. You've had such a good relationship. Don't you want to try to save it? I'm sure once Sarah explains everything, you'll understand." At this point, I was getting pretty annoyed. It was like Lisa wasn't even listening to what I was saying. She was so focused on getting me to take Sarah back that she wasn't thinking about how I felt. I took a deep breath and tried to stay calm. "With all due respect, Lisa, Sarah had 6 weeks to get in touch with me and she didn't. I've made up my mind that the wedding is off and that's that." I thought that would be the end of it, but Lisa wasn't done yet. She said, "Well, if you won't talk to Sarah, at least come over for dinner so we can talk as a family. Maybe we can work through this together." I was speechless. She was inviting me to their family dinner like this was some kind of small fight that could be settled over a plate of spaghetti. I knew this wasn't going anywhere, so I thanked her and said no. The offer, but I think it's best if we all just move on. I hung up, and you would think that would be the end of it. But the next day, I got a message from Sarah's dad. Let me tell you, Tom is one of those old-school guys who thinks he's always right. He never really liked me, but he put up with me because Sarah and I were together. So when I saw the message from him, I knew it wasn't going to be a friendly chat. He basically told me I was ruining Sarah's life by not giving. He even said something like, "Men don't act like this. You should be standing by your fiancé, not running at the first sign of trouble. That really made me mad. I mean, I stood by Sarah for years, and this is how I get treated. I didn't reply to Tom's message because I knew it would just turn into a pointless argument, and honestly, I was over it. But that wasn't the worst part. A couple of days later, I got a message from Sarah. She used a different number to reach out, and it was a long message, like multiple paragraphs long. She went on and on about how sorry she was for everything, how she didn't mean to hurt me, and how she realized she made a mistake. She said she was confused about the wedding and needed time to think but didn't know how to tell me, so she panicked and blocked me. Then she dropped the big one. She still wanted to get married. Yeah, you read that right. After all of this, after blocking me and ghosting me for 6 weeks and trying to blame it all on wedding nerves, she still wanted to marry me. It was like she was living in some fantasy world. She went on for paragraphs about how sorry she was for everything, how she didn't mean to hurt me, and how she realized she made a mistake. She said she was confused about the wedding and needed time to think, but she didn't know how to tell me, so she panicked and blocked me. Then she dropped the big one. She said she still wanted to get married. Yes, you read that right. After all of this, after blocking me, ghosting me for 6 weeks, and trying to blame it all on wedding nerves, she still wanted to marry me. It was like she was living in some fantasy where I sat there staring at the message for a while, not sure what to say. Part of me was still angry, no, most of me was still angry, but a small part of me felt sad, I guess. We had been together for years, and this is how it all ended. It wasn't how I thought things would go, that's for sure, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized that this wasn't something I could forgive. It wasn't just about the wedding or the trip to Europe. It was Sarah had broken my trust, and no amount of apologies or explanations was going to fix it. I couldn't marry someone who thought it was okay to just disappear when things got tough. So I did what I should have done from the start. I blocked the number she used to text me, deleted the message, and moved on for real this time. After all of that, I felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I wasn't tied down by Sarah's guilt trips or her family's pressure anymore. I could finally focus on myself and what I wanted for the future. And honestly it felt pretty damn good. Update 2 alright, so you'd think after I blocked Sarah and her family again things would finally settle down. Right? Wrong? Of course not, because that would be too easy. I swear it's like they just couldn't let go of the fact that the wedding was off and they kept coming at me from every angle like they were trying to wear me down or something. Spoiler, it didn't work. A couple of days after Sarah's last attempt to reach out, I get a text from someone else. This time it's from one of Katie, Sarah's bridesmaid, and I weren't very close. She was always nice when we hung out as a group, but she was more Sarah's friend than mine. So when I saw her name pop up, I was immediately suspicious. The text started off innocent enough. She was asking how I was doing and saying she'd heard about the breakup, but I wasn't stupid. I knew she wasn't just checking in for no reason. I kept my response short, saying something like, "Yeah, I'm fine, just dealing with everything one day at a time." Then she hit me. "I think you should listen to Sarah." Here we go again. I stared at my phone for a minute, trying to decide if I should even respond. Part of me wanted to just block Katie too and move on, but I was curious to see where this was going. So I asked her why she thought that. Katie went on and on about how Sarah had been really struggling and crying every day since she got back from Europe. She said Sarah was too scared to reach out to me directly because she thought I wouldn't listen. Been telling her friends that she messed up big time but didn't know how to fix it. I sighed, feeling that Asian bubble up again. "Katie, I've heard all of this already." I gave Sarah chances to explain herself, and she didn't. She blocked me for 6 weeks and then expected everything to be fine when she got back. That's not something I can just forget. Katie tried again, saying how Sarah just needed space and didn't mean to hurt me, but the more she talked, the more I realized what was really happening. Sarah had sent Katie to she had someone else do her dirty work, thinking maybe I'd listen to them. It was like she didn't even have the guts to face me herself anymore. I was done. I told Katie, "Look, I appreciate you trying to help, but this isn't something that can be fixed with a few apologies. It's over and that's it." I could tell she wanted to keep pushing, but I didn't give her the chance. I blocked her right after that. Then, just when I thought I was finally in the clear, I got another message. This time it was from one of Sarah's cousins, Mark. I hadn't heard from Mark in months. And out of nowhere he's texting me asking if we can meet up to talk about everything. At this point I was so fed up with everyone trying to drag me back into Sarah's drama that I almost didn't respond, but curiosity got the better of me. I wanted to know what angle Mark was going to come at me with, so I agreed to meet him for coffee. When I showed up at the cafe, Mark was already there looking a little nervous. We sat down and, after some awkward small talk, he finally got to the point. Look man, I know this whole thing with Sarah I just wanted to check in with you and see if there's any way you two could work things out. I almost laughed. Mark, it's done. There's nothing to work out. She made her choices and I made mine. He looked uncomfortable. Like he knew he was about to say something I wasn't going to like. Yeah, I get that, but here's the thing. Sarah's been talking about how she thinks she made a mistake, and well, she's been hinting that maybe you guys could try again if you gave it some time. I put my coffee down, trying to keep my cool. Mark, no offense, but Sarah, she had her chance and messed up. That's fine, but she didn't just mess up. She ghosted me for weeks and cut me off like I didn't even exist. That's not something you can just bounce back from. He nodded, but I could tell he wasn't really listening. Yeah, but what if she's serious about fixing things? She's been talking about wanting to make it up to you. I shook my head. Mark, I appreciate you coming here and trying to help, but it's not going to happen. If Sarah wants to move on, that's fine, but I'm not interested in picking up where we left off. After that, we sat there in awkward silence for a while, both of us knowing that the conversation wasn't going anywhere. Finally, Mark shrugged and said, I get it. I just thought I'd give it a shot. I finished my coffee, stood up and said, thanks for trying, man, but it's over. It's time for both of us to move on. He smiled half-heartedly, and we said our goodbyes. After that, I thought maybe that would be the end of it. I mean, how many people could Sarah possibly send after me? Well, I was wrong. Again, the very next day, I got a message from Sarah's aunt of all people. I barely knew this woman. We had met at a few family events and exchanged polite small talk, but that was it. So when I saw her name pop up on my phone, I knew something was seriously wrong with Sarah's side of the family. Her aunt started by saying how she heard about the breakup and wanted to see how I was doing. At this point, I was so over it that I just asked her straight up, did Sarah send you? Her answer was, not exactly, but she's really been struggling. I thought I could help mediate things between you two, but I almost threw my phone across the room. I texted back, there's nothing to mediate, we're done. I don't know how much clearer I can make it. She didn't give up, though. She said something about how love is worth fighting for and how I shouldn't throw away years of a good relationship over a misunderstanding. That's when I realized that Sarah had probably been telling her family this whole sob story to make it seem like I was the one who overreacted. I didn't even bother replying this time. I blocked her and decided that was it. No more conversations, no more explanations, and no more giving people the chance to drag me back into that toxic mess. I was done for real this time. After that, things finally quieted down. No more texts, no more calls, and no more random family members showing up in my inbox trying to guilt me into taking Sarah back. It felt good, like I could finally breathe again without the weight of her drama hanging over me. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was actually moving forward. No more waiting for apologies that didn't mean anything. No more wondering what could have been. Just me focusing on what's next, and that's exactly what I needed. Update 3, here's how everything finally wrapped up. Things didn't end quietly, of course. You'd think that after blocking Sarah, her mom, her bridesmaids, and pretty much her entire family, things would just die down. Well, that's not what happened. Sarah decided to make one last move, and it was the one that made me realize just how far she'd go to try and win me back. Or at least get her way. So about a month after everything went down, I get this letter in the mail. Yep, a literal letter like it's the 1800s or something. I almost didn't open it because who even sends letters anymore, but the handwriting looked familiar and I figured why not, maybe it was some final attempt from Sarah, but honestly I wasn't expecting anything too crazy. Boy, was I wrong. I opened the letter and it was this long handwritten message from Sarah, like pages long. She poured her heart out saying she missed me, she regretted everything, was blah blah blah. But here's the kicker. She didn't just say she was sorry. She started talking about how she wanted to meet up again and how she still had the key to my apartment. Let me say that again. She said she still had the key to my apartment, the same key I had completely forgotten she had. My stomach dropped. I mean, I had already changed the locks once when this all started, but I hadn't even thought about the fact that Sarah might still think she had access to my place. I got up, checked the locks again, and started thinking about what to do next. But that wasn't all. The letter wasn't just an apology. It was basically a plan for how we could start over. She said she had been talking to her mom about how we should go to couples counseling, and she thought if we could just meet up and talk face to face, we could work things out. At that point, I was more annoyed than anything else. She really thought this was a good idea after blocking me, ghosting me, and sending her whole family after me. I couldn't believe it when she acted like I was the one who needed to fix things. It got worse when she said she had already made plans for us to meet with a counselor. Like she had already booked the appointments without even asking me. She didn't check in with me at all, just assumed I would go along with it. I was fuming. I couldn't believe she still didn't get it after everything. She was still trying to control the situation. She was still trying to get me to do what she wanted, as if she thought that if she just planned everything out, I would eventually give in. So I sat down and wrote her a letter back. I figured that if she wanted to play the old-fashioned game of sending letters, I would go along with it one last time, but this time I made things clear. I told her in no uncertain terms that we were done. There would be no counseling, no second chances, and no meeting up to talk. I told her to return the key, even though I had already changed the locks again, and that she needed to. I sent the letter back and felt good about finally closing that door for good. I thought that would be the end of it, but a week later I got another letter from her. This one was much shorter. She didn't argue or try to convince me to go to counseling. She just said she understood where I was coming from but still thought we should talk. Then she said something that really scared me. She said she had driven by my apartment a few times and saw that I wasn't home. She didn't say why she was driving by or what she was doing, but the fact that she was checking up on me like that sent chills down my spine. At that point, I knew I had to do something more drastic. I wasn't going to let this turn into a creepy stalking situation. I called my landlord and asked about getting extra security, maybe even cameras installed. I wasn't playing around anymore. Just when I thought things couldn't get any weirder, I got a call from my mom. My mom knew about everything that had happened and she had been very supportive through all of this. But when she called me to say that Sarah had come to her house without warning and asked to talk about us, I almost dropped my phone. Sarah had gone to my mom's house to try to get her to convince me to take her back. I was so angry. Not only was Sarah crossing boundaries with me, but now she was dragging my family into it to try to manipulate the situation through them. My mom, bless her heart, didn't fall for it. She told Sarah that I had already made my decision, that she needed to respect it. Sarah apparently got emotional and started crying, but my mom didn't back down. She told her that it was time to move on. After that call, I realized I needed to take one final step to end this for good. I filed for a restraining order. I didn't want to, but I felt like I had no choice. Sarah was getting too close, and I needed to protect my space and my family. When Sarah got served with the paperwork, she finally backed off. No more letters, no more visits, nothing. It was like she finally got the message. I didn't feel good about having to go that far, but I knew it was the right thing to do. After everything that happened, I learned a lot about myself. I learned that it's okay to stand up for your boundaries even when people don't want to respect them. I learned that you don't owe anyone endless chances, especially when they've broken your trust. Most importantly, I learned that moving on isn't just about walking away. It's about protecting your peace and your future. So yeah, that's it. That's how it all ended. I'm finally free from all the drama. I am going on with my life. It wasn't easy, but I made it through. Now I'm simply focusing on what's ahead. No more looking back.